And Alex is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. So here we go. This is what I read in October. This is an October wrap-up in the middle of November. Let's do it. So first things first, I, of course, read another 6 volumes of Fullmetal Alchemist in the Fullmetal editions, these gorgeous hardcovers that are fantastic. I mean, the series is fantastic. What else can I say about it? It's so heartfelt and emotional. The level of maturity it has is surprising at times, and also just downright hilarious at other times. The subject matter gets pretty dark. There's an entire military operation at the center of this manga. It's really tough sometimes, man. There's a lot of messed up shit in these volumes of Fullmetal. It handles a lot of serious topics. Yes, there is a lot of levity and comedy in it, and it knocks it out of the park damn near every time that it happens. Even from a visual aspect, there's sometimes the way that the characters are drawn is just hilarious, in itself. I'm genuinely enjoying the hell out of these. I can't wait to get to the end of it. And honestly, it just brings back, the joy that I had when I first watched Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which was brilliant in my opinion. It's a wonderful adaptation. I'll probably end up having to watch it again to see how close it was to the manga itself. I'll probably have to watch it again to see how close it was to the manga. Because as I understand it, it was created after this manga was actually completed, whereas the original anime was not. So they kind of veer off in different directions at a certain point. But I love damn near everything about it. The characters are fantastic. The arcs that the characters go on, the growth that you see in characters, the way that the plot unravels, and it's just, I don't know, man. It's so good. I would recommend this to just about everybody, honestly. It's well written. It's funny. It's witty. It's got a ton of emotion. Lots of good action in it. And just, the illustrations, man. It's amazing. Also, as I've been doing on Joseph Carroll's channel, that's J.R. Carroll on YouTube. It'll be linked in the description below. We've been talking about Dresden through this reread. So we were doing 3 books every 2 months. We are now going to do 2 books every month as we finish up the series. So Small Favor and Turncoat. Yep. Those will be at the end of this month. We'll discuss those on his channel. So at the end of this month, we'll get the crew back together on Joe's channel to discuss Small Favor and Turncoat. But last month, I did read Proven Guilty, White Knight, and what's this one? Deadbeat. That's the one. We spoke for hours about these, and I actually had to jump to another live with Leanna about another book I'm about to talk about. So I was only around for about an hour and a half, 2 hours of that discussion, unfortunately. Sorry, I had to leave early. Probably won't happen again because now we're going to do 2 books, so I should have plenty of time. But man, Dresden is just so good, and it completely makes sense to me why it continues to be my favorite ongoing fantasy series right now, because I just have so much fun reading it. I could reread and re-listen to these books probably a dozen times without it getting old. And even though I just caught up to Battleground last year and already going back through them, it all just feels so good. I love it. Like, all the moments are so great over and over again. The writing really just works for me. Harry as a character is fantastic. Especially as he grows through the middle of the series and beyond, he becomes much more of a likable character. I always vibe with his comedy. I love Jim Butcher's writing style. I love the way that he creates very compelling narrative and characters throughout this entire series. And everybody honestly grows a lot through the books. And as the scope of the world gets more and more large and goes beyond just, the city of Chicago and being, a crime noir novel that it started out with in Stormfront, the scope is just wild. And the amount of stuff that he packs into these books, because they're not long, but they're so well done. The pacing is impeccable. I think the plot is always intriguing. Even when you have somewhat of a side plot in something like Blood Rights, where the focus of the story wasn't my favorite, the characters are always fantastic. And there's always at least a few nuggets in there that really make the book worthwhile. So these books, when you get to Deadbeat, if you already kind of like the series by then, it's just a banger every single time. Like, I loved it from book 1, but Deadbeat and beyond, every single book somehow tops the last one, and they're all great. They're all, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, however you want to rate books. They're all spectacular. If you're a weirdo and you do like 9.785s, then sure, you could give it that too. But they're all fantastic. I love them. I really don't have that many complaints about the series. It's just so well done. And I can't wait to continue it whenever the next book comes out, which can't come soon enough. But yeah, so these are the 3 that we read last month. Got 2 more coming up this month, and then that'll leave us what? 6 more after that? No. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6 more after that. So next couple of months, there's going to be plenty of Dresden coverage on my channel as well as Joe's, because we'll be talking about it again. I also continued my journey through the Dark Tower. I am currently reading Wolves-Zakala, but it took me a little bit to get back around to the Win Through the Keyhole, which was fine. I enjoyed it for the most part, but it makes sense why this is kind of slotted as like a 4.5 book, because it's not really necessary, I'd say, to move the plot forward. You get a ton of good character work in here, though. You get a lot of backstory on Roland, and it is kind of a story within a story, because Roland's kind of sitting the group down and telling them about his history, and then there's stories within stories within stories. It's really well done. I did enjoy it. I'd rather continue the story, though. So like this was, I believe, written after the conclusion and then kind of slotted in as like a side narrative. So it's one of those books where it's cool additional context and reading, but I don't think I take too much away from it. Obviously, I don't like it quite as much as any of the main books in the series so far, because those are all just fantastic and weird and awesome. And while this was good, it's just not to the tier that I hold even the Gunslinger ad, or Drawing of the Three, any of the main series of books blow this out of the water. And then, of course, we had a book that I ended up DNFing at 300 pages, which, you know what? If a book doesn't have me by then, it's not going to, because damn, this book is almost 800 pages long. It's like 740 pages long. It's entirely too long. It's juvenile. It's terrible. It's poorly written. I hated all the characters, especially the main character. And Jay Kristoff, man, if you're going to set a vampire fantasy world that is supposed to be in France, like, don't just throw in oui and merci and like the 3 French terms that you know randomly just to be like, hey, remember, we're in France. Make your characters likable. By the way, I'm talking about Empire of the Vampire, this dog shit book that I spoke with Leanna on her channel. I'll link that down in the description below. We both hated it, but she decided to suffer the consequences of actually finishing the book. I bailed because, wow, this book was bad. I love the word fuck. I say it all the time. It's fun to say. I don't expect us to have to read the word fuck 400 times in a vampire book. It's almost as if Jay Kristoff is either a 13-year-old edgelord that never grew up, or he's writing this as parody. Is this supposed to be intentionally bad and over the top? Because it didn't feel like it. It felt like a bad teenager edgy book to me. It felt as if, to emphasize anything serious happening, he just said fuck. Like, what are you doing? What are we even doing, guys? This book does not like gay people. It does not like women. It really likes deeply detailed, we'll just say fellatio, when he's recalling his younger years as a teen. And there's just a lot of like gross, bloody, sexual shit that happens. I don't know. It's weird. Clearly he I don't know. He probably unironically watches all the Underworld movies, marathons them on an annual basis, and thinks it's cool. I don't know, man. This book was shit. I'm never going to read a Jay Kristoff book again. I already tried Nevernight and hated it long before this book came out. And so many people that I know and generally agree with some other takes on books have read this and somehow loved it. And I don't get it, dude. I mean, more power to you. You like this? Have at it, homie. But wow, I hated this book. It was so bad. Truth be told, one of the worst books I've ever read. Yeah, I'm definitely going to get rid of this book. It's not going to stay on my shelves. Even Snow Crash is still on my shelves. And that had a dude named Sushi K rapping. And that's still on my shelves. Also, I'm just looking at the back of the book. Okay, I've read plenty of Stephen King so far. I have not read The Stand. I highly doubt this is reminiscent of The Stand. Because if this is reminiscent of The Stand, then I'm going to hate The Stand. But bringing back the happiness of my reading month, I read The Hobbit, which I haven't read in 20 years. I don't even know. This is the 75th anniversary edition. Apparently. This book is old, man. J.R.R. Tolkien, master of his craft, master of the fantasy genre, packed a hell of a lot of content into this, 300-page book. It didn't need to be 3 movies. That's another topic for another day. But I had honestly forgotten how much was packed into this. It's great. I mean, just the dwarves were cool in parts, but obviously this is really focused on Bilbo. You get a little bit of Gandalf. The dwarves kind of take backstage on this. It's really just a story focused on Bilbo and his interactions with all these other characters involved. You know, he's the perfect protagonist for a story like this, where he's literally off on an adventure where he's completely in over his head. He has no idea what he's getting in for, has really no business being there with all these guys, but Gandalf volunteered him. His interactions with Smaug are brilliant and so wonderfully written. I loved that entire section of the book when they're kind of doing like a battle of wits, which I think Tolkien has a fancy for because he also does it with Gollum in the book. And those 2 sections of the book are probably my favorite. His entire back and forth with Gollum in the cave about, you know, the riddles going back and forth was just so well done. And I think I said it in a video somewhat recently. I think that's probably where Stephen King got his idea for Charlie the Choo-Choo in The Wastelands, because there's an entire riddle-based scenario there that felt very similar to this. So I'm going to guess that's kind of where he got it from. Who knows? But it's just so well done. It's lighthearted for the most part. I understand why it's catered to children. It's definitely a younger audience geared book, but there's also just a lot of really heavy themes in this. There's definitely some adult moments. It's just more lighthearted and fun than Lord of the Rings is, or, you know, a standard adult fantasy, but it's great. I mean, I would recommend this to everybody. It's fantastic. The only thing that, and now having read Fellowship too, again, Tolkien loves writing songs. Maybe a little bit too much, but The Hobbit holds a special place in my heart, just like every other piece of Tolkien that I ever read, which is really just I'm not even going to call it a trilogy. He wanted it to be a book. So The Lord of the Rings, the main series of books that he wanted to make one book, but publishers were like, hell no, you're crazy. They're all just great. And you can just tell so much was built off of these books and his characters, and just everybody pulls from it. And there's good reason why. The Hobbit's fantastic. I love every second of it. I have a review on my channel for it. So check that out. That'll be linked below too. But that was my October reading month, which, other than Empire of the Vampire, was good. That was one of the worst books I've ever read. So let it not tarnish the rest of the good books that I read. But yeah, that's my October. This video is finally out because I am not sick anymore, or just exhausted. I started a new job a couple weeks ago, I guess about a month ago now. And I've just been super busy, and then the kids kept getting me sick. So content kind of got put on the back burner, but more to come. I'll do a November TBR here soon too, which, you know, November's already halfway over, but show must go on. Bye guys.